Morning and welcome back to the channel. How you all doing? You're all keeping well, I hope. So today we're off to France. Can't say I'm not a little bit excited. First time we've been to France this year. Now normally when we go to France we get the ferry from Plymouth to Santander or Plymouth to Roscoff. But today we're here in Folkestone and we're in Le Shuttle. We're waiting to get the shuttle to Calais. It takes about 30-35 minutes to get there, but it did take us 6 hours to drive here yesterday. So the reason we're going to France, we're going to see some World War I memorial sites. We're going to see the Battle of the Somme, Ypres, the memorial at Thiepval. And one of the sites itself, it's got a bit of family meaning to me. So I'm really looking forward to seeing one of the battle sites in particularly. So we're just about to get on the ferry in a minute. And if you want to follow us, hop on board because it's next stop, Dunkirk. See you there. Now if you've never taken Le Shuttle before, it's dead easy. Step 1, train tickets and passport control is all done on the British side, and this is going to make it so much easier for everyone later on. Step 2, follow the clearly labelled signs, wait in the car park until you're called up to drive down to the platform. Step 3, you're going to board the train, bikes get on last and bikes board at the rear of the train. The journey takes about 35 minutes. Find someone to chat to and before you know it, you're on your way again. And finally, step 4, get off the train in Calais, France and enjoy your sejour. That's it, you're already there. So we just left Folkestone, travelling at 100 miles an hour underneath the channel, got into Calais and now we would head into Dunkirk. It didn't take us long at all to get into Dunkirk, only about 30-40 minutes if that. And as soon as we got into Dunkirk we noticed that it seemed to be a place that was on the up. It looked really lively, modern and it was very clean. Now I've no idea why, but in the back of my mind I was expecting Dunkirk to be grey, not very modern and pretty much run down. I've no idea why, but how wrong was I? We were soon passing the Dunkirk football ground and it looked very impressive from the outside. Up the Dunnies. So we managed to park our motorbike right outside the Operation Dynamo Museum. Operation Dynamo was the code name given to get the troops who were stuck on the beaches at Dunkirk back home to Britain. I had a bite to eat and we went straight into the museum, and the museum was really impressive. It was really good, much bigger than we expected and well worth a visit. But what we'd come to see was the beaches. So we crossed this bridge, which is about a 2-minute walk away from the museum, headed up the public footpath. It's a little causeway that takes about 15 minutes to walk, but once you walk up the causeway you get right onto a place called the Mole, or to be specific, East Mole. Now the East Mole was a wooden pier that was built to protect the harbour of Dunkirk because it's quite shallow, but in 1940 it proved really pivotal in getting ships into Dunkirk so we could get the troops back out again. Now I'm lucky enough to have been to some really great places on my motorbike, but whenever I come to places like this, I'm always really humbled. I know what has gone on here in the past, and I know what sacrifices have been made by people so that people like myself can live the lifestyle that we live today. Now you can say what you like about the French, but one thing that they do is keep our war memorials in absolutely pristine condition. I've never ever seen an untidy war memorial in France, and the work that the French and the Commonwealth War Graves Commission do is absolutely outstanding. It's a full credit to both of them. So we were soon off again, but we weren't going very far at all. We were only going about a mile away to the Dunkirk War Cemetery. Dunkirk War Cemetery is home to over 6,000 graves. 4,500 of them, unfortunately, are unknown graves, remembering soldiers, sailors, airmen who just vanished at Dunkirk. We've got no idea where they are. But in the cemetery there's also 1,500 marked graves, bearing the names of those servicemen who were able to be identified. Now, as usual, this Commonwealth War Grave Cemetery is immaculate. But it was also lovely to see that the visitors book has been updated 4 or 5 times every day by relatives coming over to pay their respects. So we'd had a great day in Dunkirk. The beach itself, apart from the historic value, was fantastic. It seemed to go on for miles and miles. It had a really lovely promenade, and all the French families, all the kids seemed to have come out and played on the beach that day. It was really nice. But we were off to Lille now, and as normal we decided to try not to take the motorways. It took us about an hour and 40 minutes to get there, and we made the most of the sun. But what we didn't realise at the time, that this was going to be the best day's weather we had during our stay in France and Belgium. We managed to bag a place right in the city centre, right in the heart of Lille. And when we got to our apartment, it wasn't too shabby at all. It had some really nice bay windows, which when you opened them, we could look out into the street and keep an eye on Shirley, keep an eye on the motorbike. So all that was left for us to do now was get showered, get changed, get out, do a bit of exploring in Lille, and get something to eat. So that was a really great day in Dunkirk, and the drive to Lille was great as well. Some lovely countryside, the D roads never let us down, excellent as usual. We're a bit knackered now, so I'm eating my tea. Tomorrow we're off to Ypres and we're going to see some World War I stuff. So I'm going to get my head down now. Mrs. Happy Biker's got the privilege of paying for this, so see you tomorrow. So good morning and welcome to day 2 of our little jolly around France and Belgium. This morning we're off to a place called Ypres, or to be a bit more specific, we're off to a place called Hill 62, which is the scene of some pretty fierce fighting during World War I. So as we were driving through Lille city centre, we couldn't help but notice that this is a big place, it's a big city, and I liked it the moment we got here, to be honest. But although Lille is big, it had more of a small town pace of life to it. I really liked it. Even driving around here now, first thing on a Monday morning during the rush hour, there's hardly any cars around at all. So although we'd managed to book ourselves a place right in the middle of Lille city centre, it only took us about 5-10 minutes to get out into the country roads. Now although it looks nice here, I can tell you it was absolutely blowing a hoolie this day, and I was having to counter steer quite a lot just to drive in a straight line. It was really windy. I was trying to imagine what it was like around here hundreds odd years ago at the time of Hill 62. There certainly wouldn't have been a nice D road like this. There would have been the odd scattered house here and there, troops, a little bit of fighting. I've got to be honest, around this point we weren't actually sure where we were, if we were still in France or if we'd already got into Belgium. We didn't notice any signs to say that we got into Belgium, but we had the sneaky feeling we had crossed the border. And when we stumbled across this little civic ceremony, we noticed the Belgian flag flying, so we'd cracked it, we were in Belgium. But then we got really confused because they were playing the French national anthem. Now we didn't want to drive straight through this civic ceremony. We just pulled over, turned the bike off and listened to the anthem and waited for them to finish before we carried on. So we drove through the little Belgium town, and it wasn't long at all before we were back on the country roads. And I couldn't believe how much farmland there was around here, and it was flat, really flat. There was loads of fields full of crops, full of cows, and there were World War I cemeteries scattered all over the place. Our sat-nav said we had about 2-3 minutes to go until we got to Hill 62, and just as we were approaching Hill 62, we came across a World War I cemetery. Now this was going to be the final resting place for a lot of Canadian soldiers who fought around here. There were a lot of Canadians and Australians fighting around here, especially during 1916. The cemetery is only about 100 yards from Hill 62, so we decided we would go and pay our respects there after we'd visited the trenches at Hill 62. Hill 62, also known as Sanctuary Wood, it's one of the most haunting World War II sites in Belgium. It's located quite near to Ypres, and it was right in the heart of the old Western Front. And during World War I, this strategic ridge became the scene of some proper brutal fighting between Allied and German forces, especially during 1916. Tens of thousands of young men would have fought and died here at Hill 62 during the war. But Hill 62 was just one little section of the Western Front, which at its maximum stretched roughly 500 miles, running through the Belgium coast at Newport, through northern France, all the way down to the Swiss border. Today, visitors like myself and Mrs. Happy Biker can walk through the preserved trenches. We can see the shell craters, we can see the underground dugouts that remain almost exactly as they were over 100 years ago. And the nearby Canadian Memorial, which we drove past, honours the Canadian soldiers who fought and died here, defending the Ypres salient. Hill 62 offers a really powerful reminder of the horrors of trench warfare and the sacrifice made by thousands of young men during the First World War. Walking quietly through these trenches, looking at the massive shell craters that litter the ground even today, it's impossible to imagine just how the soldiers would have coped with the daily life of living down here, how they would have actually felt with it. It must have been absolutely horrific. So we left Hill 62 thinking what an amazing place that was. But now we were heading to Ypres. We wanted to see the closing ceremony at the Menin Gate, but not before we'd paid our respects to the Canadian servicemen at the nearby cemetery. The first daily last post ceremony at the Menin Gate began on July the 2nd, 1928, and it's continued every evening since at 7 p.m. prompt, with only one exception, a 4-year pause during World War II when Ypres was again occupied. But during that time, the buglers carried out the tradition at the Brookwood Military Cemetery in Surrey, before returning to the Menin Gate on the exact day of the Ypres liberation in 1944. The drive to Ypres was only about 10-15 minutes, so it was nothing at all really, but as we were driving through the country roads into Ypres, we couldn't help but notice all the cemeteries that were scattered here everywhere, all from World War I obviously. So we got into Ypres no problem at all, and we found somewhere where we could have a nice cup of tea before looking for the actual Menin Gate itself. And that didn't take too long at all because it's massive and it absolutely dominates the entrance and the exit to Ypres. So the Menin Gate was built in 1927 to commemorate the soldiers who died around this area during World War I. There's approximately 55,000 names of soldiers from the British and Commonwealth who died around Ypres engraved on this wall. But these people, these soldiers, these sons, husbands, their bodies were never recovered. So these are all people who got no graves, no resting places, they were just lost during the war. These are people from the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, India, South Africa, the British West Indies, all over the world. But every evening at 7 p.m, the last post is played at 7 p.m. prompt. The most senior ranked person engraved on the walls of the Menin Gate is Brigadier General Charles Fitzclarence, VC, but shockingly, there are 10 15-year-old schoolboys also engraved on here. Obviously, they lied about their age to join the army. So the whole ceremony of the last post, which is played here every night, takes about 20-25 minutes. So I'm not going to put the whole ceremony on here. I'll just put a highlight of about 4 or 5 minutes. But if you would like to see the whole ceremony, I left a link in the comments, so you can click on the link in the comments and watch the whole thing. And with the closing ceremony at the Menin Gate, that was day 2 finished for us. And as you can see in the video, the weather on the way back home had changed for the worst, and unfortunately it stayed like this for the next few days. So looking back, today we'd visited Hill 62, and I really recommend going there if you ever get the chance. The trenches were amazing and the museum was brilliant. We also got to see the closing ceremony and the playing of the last post at the Menin Gate, which is something I'd wanted to do for a very long time. So for our next 1 or 2 days in France and Belgium, it's going to be a little bit more personal. We're going to be searching for Private Albert John Marshall 800376, who died somewhere around here in April 1918, so right towards the end of the war. Private Albert John Marshall is my great-grandfather, so we're going to be trying to find his final resting place and pay our respects. Right, keep eyes peeled now. Yeah.